Okay, and welcome to a video I'm going to call What Tanks I Own. This is a question I was asked recently in one of the comments. How many tanks do I have? So I thought I'd show you them all, with a little description on them all, but not much. This is the Ariel 44. Um, not in fact, my least favourite Tier 6 heavy. However, doesn't mean I don't like it. It just means it's my least favourite. It's brilliant if you're shot in the chassis. It will bounce shots right, left, and Chelsea. But it has a really weak turret. It's not as fast as either of my others, and the gun is not as powerful and takes a bit longer to load. So overall, not my favourite. But I still enjoy it, and I still play it now and again. What I don't play is the Tier 7. I hate this tank. This is my least favourite Tier 7 heavy and one of my least favourite tanks. I have this. I had this purely to get to Tier 8. No other reason. And thoroughly hated grinding through it to get to the Tier 8 tank, which is the AMX 5100. This is a weird tank. It has a clip rather than rounds, which means you put the clip in and you've got 6 shots that can be fired every 3 seconds, which is awesome. But the problem is the clip takes about a minute to reload, which is horrific because you're defenseless for about a minute. But you know, when your clip's in there, rather than having 15 seconds to reload like most other heavies, you can reload like that, 3 seconds, brilliant. The other thing about this is it's really fast, and it's really fast because it has rubbish armour. This is basically a medium tank that's just been called a heavy. That can be an issue if you're the highest tiered heavy tank on your team, because you're not really a heavy, you're a medium. If you're going up against something like an IS-3, that could be an issue. Right, moving on to my tank destroyers. I have just the one. It's British 82 tier 5. Love this, got this because every time I saw one on the game, if I was in a tank lower than tier 5, I could not pen this for love nor money. um, I was in a game the other day where I was the last one on my team alive, and the enemy kept tracking me so that I couldn't move and aim my gun at them, but it still took them 70 rounds to kill me, only 4 of which actually penned me. All the rest either took my tracks off or bounced. 70 rounds, 66 bounces. That is awesome, and that's why I love this machine. Moving on to my Yank tanks, I have the T1 Heavy. Um, I like this tank, I'm not going to lie, it's a good old tank. Um, it's quite tall, which means you can peek over higher rocks and use them to cover the front of your tank so that only your turret, the strong point, is showing. This is my second favourite tier 5 heavy, the KV1 being my favourite, but it's almost identical to the tier 6 heavy. If I show you that, other than the slight colour change, you might think that you were looking at the same tank. This is an M6. Um, Again, I like this tank. Same thing. The other thing about the Yank tanks is they've got brilliant gun depression. They can get their guns down really low, so you can approach a hill and shoot at things over the crest of the hill that can't shoot at you back because they're on the hill and they can't get their guns low enough. Brilliant. Going on to the T29, not such a fan of this. It's alright. It's way better than the Tier 7 French, but again, I just prefer the Russian line. And I always think it looks weird with its little ears sticking out that can be shot but will do no damage whatsoever. Still very easy to pen the side, and if I have a shot at the side of a T29, I will always aim for the side of the turret rather than the tracks because I know that I'll get through that, and and the tracks can absorb it. The turret will give way every time. Moving on to the T32, this is my Tier 8 Yank Heavy. Not such a fan of this one, I'm not going to lie. I've had a few games in it and I've not found it easy to use. I would say I probably prefer the French Tier 8. I've had more games in this, but I've had more fun in the French Tier 8, even though it's technically a medium tank. And this one is a proper heavy, and I am a heavy driver. I've just not managed to get to grips with it. Possibly my fault, possibly not. Anyway, moving on to my Russians. I have here the KV-1. It's it's my favourite tank. What can I say? It's a tier 5, which means it'll always make a profit in a fight. I have the lowest caliber gun on it. That's a deliberate thing. That's because the higher, the more powerful guns take longer to reload. This is a medium gun, and all the guns for the KV-1 are medium guns. So trying to use them like heavies is, in my opinion, just a bit of a waste. So I don't. This one will do as much damage because you just keep firing with it. You reload so much quicker. You've got rapid fire on it, and you can do just as much damage as you can with the higher calibers. But if you miss, it doesn't hurt so much because you got another shot a few seconds later. Anyway, my second favourite and you know, a big contender for first place is the KV-1S. Now this is the total opposite of the KV-1. For me, it's got the big ass gun on it, the derp gun. This takes, when you first get it, 18 seconds to reload. I've managed to get it down to 14 seconds. I've done that with a gun rammer on there. I've put vents on there. I've done everything. I paid gold to get my gunner, my loader even, up to 100%, so that, you know, it would load as quick as possible. Brilliant tank. When this hits you, you know about it, and it'll bounce shots quite a lot of the time. Brilliant tank. Anyway, onto my IS. This is basically the same as the KV-1S, just with more health. It looks similar. It goes at the same sort of blistering speed. It has the same gun on it. Honestly, it's just a different version of the KV-1S with more health. The problem is the opponents it can go up against can be harder. So while it's a good tank, I would prefer to use the KV-1S. Moving on to the IS-3. This is a bastard of a tank. It's got the piked front, which is horrific for your opponents because you don't need to angle your armour because it's already angled if you're straight on. Trying to pen one of these at the front is difficult as anything. I like this tank. It's my favourite tier 8 heavy. It's my favourite tier 8 at all because I only have the heavies at tier 8. And yeah, the gun on it's awesome. The armour on it's awesome. It's not the fastest tank in the world, but it doesn't need to be. It's all round awesome. Now moving on to my Russian artillery. Now you'll see that I have covered this one in camouflage as well as my normal Union Jack on the side. I've done that because that helps your camouflage bonus. I've also got a camouflage net for it. That helps your camouflage bonus. All my crew are at 100%, though that was earned the hard way. And all of this is because with artillery you need to make it as camouflaged as possible. I've put in it a gun rammer in order to make it load faster, and I've put in it an enhanced gun laying drive. That's to make it aim quicker. But the reason I have this one is because of the turret on it. I love it. You can't get a better. You can't get a better artillery than this. The turret just makes it such a good bit of artillery. And moving on, we've got the tanks that I use less. We start with the ELC AMX. This is a light tier 5 tank. With light tanks, you want them again to remain as camouflaged as possible. I hate this tank, I really do. I'm bloody useless in it. It's fair to say with this, I've had as many penetrating shots with it as I have had battles in it. In fact, there's probably been more battles than I've had penetrating shots in it. I've done quite a lot of spotting with it, but I get killed very quickly. My average life expectancy in one of these is less than a minute into the game. I'm bloody useless in it. I'm not a light tank driver. I may one day be able to show you a game in one of these, but I very much doubt it. Anyway, my next tank would be my my AMX, my AMX 105. It's the artillery I'm at. I decided a while back that while I love my Su-26, I want some more artillery. I want ones with a turret, and the only other tank I can find with a turret is the Batchat 155, the French Tier 8. And in order to get there, I'll need to go down either the light tanks or the French artillery, which is why I have a Tier 5 ELC AMX light tank and the AMX 105. Now I'm going both ways to see which one I prefer and which one I have to grind harder, and which is going to be the easiest way to get where. At the moment, I'm enjoying the AMX 105 a hell of a lot more than the ELC AMX, so it looks like I'll be going down the artillery way. But I still prefer my Su-26 to this. I find this very inaccurate and quite annoying. Right, moving on. This is my Tier 1 L Tractor. Don't really like it much. It's a Tier 1. It's good for just rushing around and shooting things with. But I generally prefer other Tier 1s to this. I take it out every now and again, but just, more for something to do than anything else. Right, this is one of only 2 premiums I own. I got this given to me by Wargaming when I went to their evening in Bournemouth with Jingles and XXFZ a few months back. They gave out these cards, and when you put in the code with it, you got a day's free premium, you got 300 gold, and you got one of these tanks with an extra garage slot for it. I've played it once, and I hated it, but it won, so I have a 100% record on it, and I'm never playing it again. Hence my crew at it are at around about 50% each. Wouldn't recommend this. You can't buy it now anyway, so unless Wargaming give it away to you, it's just a tank that you'll never be able to get. But would never recommend this. It's awful. It's one of only 2 Tier 4 heavies that are available, though. The other being the French B1, I think, or D1, or something like that. The one before the French Tier 5 heavy. Right, I recently, and by recently I mean in the last 2 days, bought a grill. I had one before. I was originally going up the German artillery line, and I quit it. But someone told me how good the grill was, and I've been playing better with the AMX 105, so I thought maybe it was just because I wasn't playing with it well. So I bought it again, and I'm hating it again. But I'm going to stick with it and get to the Tier 5, see what that's like. And if I don't like that, I'll bin it and never go back to them again. It was an idea. I don't think it's worked. It's awful. I'll move on. Anyway, on to my British tanks. I have the Tier 1 Vickers. I like this because it's the only Tier 1 medium. But it's not a medium, it's a light. It just doesn't go as fast as the other Tier 1s. I have loaded it up with a machine gun, and that's brilliant. Because it means you can, unlike other Tier 1s, you can fire 8 times with this, but it takes longer to load. And with the Tier 1s, I like to have the machine guns on them. I have machine guns on all of them, bar one, and that's the Russian MS. And that's because with the big gun and armor and high explosive ammo, that thing is awesome. But this is it's not a bad tank. You have to use it correctly, and I enjoy playing it. I play it every now and again, but not very often. It's if I need to, I'll sell it, and but that will only be to give myself the extra space in my garage. Moving on, I have the Matilda. Now I have this because I keep getting asked to join tank companies that are junior tank companies, and it's the only tank that's like a heavy, other than the French Tier 4. This is really hard to pen in anything Tier 4 or under, which is why it's good to take out. It's still not impossible, But yeah, I basically have it for junior tank companies. But I have some good games in it. I played in it with my godson Louis the other day, and we had some awesome games. Anyway, moving on a bit, we've got my Yank Tier 1, the T1 Cunningham. Again, a tank I enjoy. This one's quite fast. It has the machine gun on there, and I enjoy it. But I'm not brilliant with it. I'm not a light tank driver. But I do like playing some of the lower tier games. And so I have that ready to go. Right, the next one is my only other premium tank. I got this at Christmas. I started playing the game the day before Christmas Eve, and on Christmas Eve, Wargaming gave everyone who plays the game, who logs in, one of these, the T1E6. And it's an enjoyable tank. It has the clip in it like the Tier 8 French tank, so you get 5 shots and then you're empty. But even so, it's basically just a Tier 2 tank. The next tank I have is the T2 Medium. Now, I got this originally to go up the American heavy line. It's one of the ones you need to do on the way up there. And that was it. And once I'd passed it, I sold it. But then, when I was entering the junior companies, I found that very often we needed, we'd have 3 points left, and we needed a tier 3 rather than a tier 4 to get in there. So, sorry, a tier 2 rather than a tier 3 to get in there. So I bought this and thought, it's usable. It's quite good. I liked it on the way past. Worth having, and I enjoy it. It's a good one to take out and do a fair amount of damage on. It's quite fast. It's quite good overall. Then we have my other tier 2, my light tank. I got this because it's the fastest tier 2 there is. And in tank companies, if you want someone to scout, you want someone that can move like Stig. This moves like Stig, and its gun isn't actually that bad. And it will bounce some shots. It will take a bit of killing before it dies. So overall, it's not bad at all. I've put a cargo net on it and painted it so that it's harder to spot. And basically quite an enjoyable tank. Moving on to my M2 medium. This is my tier 3 one. Again, this one goes out in tank companies occasionally, and not my favourite tank, but it'll do a fair whack of damage to other tier 3s. Not much more to say about it than that. It's not great, it's not bad. Had to go through it to get to the heavies. Rebought it when I started playing tank companies. And now onto my last tank, which is the MS1. This is small, very, 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 very small, very fast, quite rubbish armour, but the gun on it with HE ammo, you'll notice my HE ammo is in first place. I have some armour piercing, but generally I'll use HE ammo on it. Will devastate tanks. One shot, it will take a little while to load, but one shot into them, it's going to hurt. They're going to know about it. And I keep that for just annoying people mainly. I will occasionally in a tank company, a junior tank company, if we've got 1 point left, I'll say, well, someone else go in a tier 4 and I'll take a tier 1 out. We can use it as a scout and it might inflict some damage, and if it gets killed, it gets killed. Might as well have the tank there though. And that is, I believe, all my tanks. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I will catch you next time. Bye.